Welcome to our Voices of Pueblo 45 Degree series, where we work with a local artist to dig deeper into the meaning of each mural making up the Pueblo Levee Project. Running along the Arkansas River, these murals lean 45 degrees back and are up to 28 feet tall and nearly 4 times as wide. This podcast is brought to you by the Pueblo Star-Journal. Jenn de Groot is here to discuss her contribution to the Pueblo Levee Mural Project and the next one in the works. Her first one was complete in spring 2021 and was the 7th one to be finished on the levee. Jenn, thank you so much for coming on and speaking with us.
Thank you for having me.
What is your connection to Pueblo?
I moved to Pueblo in the fall of 2015. I had been going to college in Maryland and looking for new adventure. So I looked into the National Student Exchange program, and CSU Pueblo accepted me. And being a school in Colorado, and I saw the Outdoor Pursuits program was really well done. It was a big draw for me. So I came here as an exchange student first, and then I really fell in love with the outdoor community and the art community of Pueblo. So I decided to transfer and stay. So I moved here in the fall of 2015, and then I've just been building my life here ever since.
Just so we can get an idea what your mural looks like, can you describe it?
Yes. Wahatoya features the 2 mountains due south of Pueblo, also known as the Spanish Peaks. There's an East Peak and a West Peak, and my mural renders them in an array of 14 vibrant colors, rainbow colors, from pink all the way through the spectrum to like a nice lavender color. And it is about 24 by 48 feet in size against a white background.
Can you explain the name?
Wahatoya is an indigenous term meaning double mountain or breast of the earth, and it can be tracked back to a number of different creation stories, one being the Ute creation story. It says, Wahatoya are 2 breasts as round as a woman's. All living things on earth, mankind, beasts, and plants derive their sustenance from that source. The clouds are born there, and without clouds there is no rain. And when no rain falls, we have no food, and without food we must perish all. And in the Comanche Dictionary and Grammar book, which I found during my research at the Pueblo Library, the Rawlings Library, I found that Waha in Comanche literally means double, and Toya means mountain. So as I was doing research for this project, I did not want to name it the Spanish Peaks. I wanted to name it after the indigenous term. I received really good feedback from the communities that I did ask about that, and I wanted to pay homage to the original creation story for it.
Mm-hmm. I guess if you can put it into words, what was the importance of making sure to include the indigenous aspect of that?
So I am a white woman of German, French, and British heritage, and moving to Pueblo has been amazing for me from the Maryland and Pennsylvania area, just as far as opening my eyes to the variety of culture that I have yet to experience. And for me to put a mountain up on a wall, that's one thing, but for me to name it an indigenous term that I don't identify with or that I wasn't raised with, I felt like I really owed it to the communities around me, my friends who are indigenous, to give it the proper naming and to take their opinions into account and to honor the original creation stories and not the colonizers who came in and just named it the Spanish Peaks, because this is not Spain, and we don't live in Spain. And there are communities, the Ute and the Comanche, who still live there, and they still call it Wahatoya. And I wanted to be very respectful of that during my process and very self-aware of myself coming in as an outsider.
And how do you pronounce the I guess the proper term for the mountain?
Wahatoya, and that could be spelled 2 different ways. What I researched in the Comanche dictionary is Wahatoya. So Waha means double and Toya means mountain. And the Ute creation story spells it with an H and a double L, I believe. Yes, it's Huajatolla. And so when I asked my friends who are Indigenous or community members who are Indigenous about the difference with that, they said really either way, because it's just letters. It's the sounds that matter.
So it's Wahatoya.
Wahatoya.
Sweet. Okay. So what drew you to Wahatoya or the Spanish Peaks?
When I first moved here, I did a hiking trip up the west peak of Wahatoya. We left Pueblo at 4 a.m. to make the drive, and since we were driving due south to reach the peak, I got to watch the sunrise unfold across the faces of the mountain, and the beauty of that moment just stole my heart. It was so early in the morning. I barely got sleep the night before, and almost everyone else in the van was asleep, but I couldn't sleep if I wanted to as I saw that sunrise unfold. It was so beautiful, and I just hope that my design conveys the joy and the love that I felt in that moment for what was unfolding in front of me. And I had just moved to Pueblo, so I was seeing big mountains for one of the first times in my life. Probably my first mountain sunrise, real mountain sunrise. And the eastern faces of Wahatoya were lit up with these gold and pink hues, and then the western sides were still in a deep purple shadow, kind of like the purple mountain majesty. So that really went into my color choice. And also I wanted to represent my queer community as like a symbol of pride with nature. And I don't know where that sentence was going, but yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask why you chose those colors, why the 16
Yeah.
colors?
Well, 16 just seemed to work really well for the design which I had. It started as a black and white line drawing. I had been practicing mountainscape drawing for about a year. Oh, wow, I guess I should back up. So, a couple months after that first hike up the west peak of Wahatoya, that was probably in September of 2015. 2 months later, I was skiing in Monarch and I fell and ruptured something. I didn't really know what was going on. I was in a lot of pain and I was throwing up. I went to the hospital and they said there's some sort of mass on your pancreas and it seems to have hemorrhaged and then enclosed again. But long story short, I had a cancerous tumor on my pancreas, which was injured. I got injured when I was skiing. So I had to stop school for a bit during my very first semester. I'd just come here and fallen in love with the outdoors and the mountains and Wahatoya and everything that Pueblo has to offer. So I had to pause school and taking incompletes in my classes, go home and get this life-saving surgery. They didn't know what was going on inside, so it just had to be an open abdominal surgery and take the whole thing out and then whatever else seemed to be cancerous as well. So that went well. I didn't have to do radiation or chemo, which was great. I just had this one big life-altering surgery. They had to cut right down my abs, so the recovery was arduous. And I could not rock climb or hike or run or do yoga for many months. So I turned to my other love, which is drawing and creation. And I just started Googling really gorgeous pictures of mountains and looking back at some pictures of mountains that I'd taken from my trips and the Wahatoya trip and drawing them. I came up with this idea to someday get it tattooed on myself once I created like what felt to me to be the perfect drawing. And I scheduled the tattoo appointment before I had the design ready. I was in Denver getting lunch before my tattoo appointment when I finally drew the mountains that I wanted to in the way that I wanted to. And it was Wahatoya and it represented my recovery. It also represented to me my relationship with my twin sister back home. I missed her so much. to draw, the mountains are also called the Sisters. So to draw the Sisters Mountains felt really good for me as I was recovering and just thinking about North Stars for my recovery process, and that being trying to return to some semblance of a normal life again, and that being with my family again, feeling healthy enough to go outside and enjoy my life and the outdoors again. So I created it first as a tattoo. And then from there, within a year, the Levee Mural Project got started. And I knew I had the perfect design. I changed it a little bit. The tattoo that I have on me has like a swirl and a wave at the bottom of the mountains because I wanted them to be more fluid. And the design that I wanted to put on the levee, I knew I would have to balance it somehow. I'm a big Pink Floyd fan. So I looked at their album covers and settled with, what is it called? The one, Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
So I settled on the Dark Side of the Moon as my inspiration and did this almost like a refracted prism. And the more I looked at the design, the more it also looked like a diamond or a heart. And I liked how many different opinions I got from people about it. Some people said, "Oh, it's a diamond, right?" And I could say, "Yes, it is." Or, "Oh, it's a heart, right?" "Oh, it's a pride symbol, right?" And I could say yes to all of those things because it is in the eye of the beholder, and the design that I was able to create could be multiple things at once.
What's interesting is that it's multifaceted, kind of like a prism.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I chose the 16 colors just because I knew I wanted it to be a rainbow. And then I also wanted to represent more than just the rainbow, specifically all of the hues that I could remember from that first sunrise that I watched.
There's a lot of heavy meaning behind that. I'm not sure if I anticipated that, but I don't think I'll ever look at the mural the same, without thinking of there's a whole lot of story behind it.
Thank you for sharing that with me. Yeah, there was a lot that went into that mural. It was such an incredible process as well. There was a certain kind of energy from that spring. Let me check the date. What year? I think it was 2021. Yeah. There was a certain kind of energy from the spring of 2021. We had come out of 2020 being COVID, all being stuck in our houses. We were afraid to hug each other. We were afraid to be outside. We were afraid to join with community. So the Levee Mural Project started in the fall of 2020, and then it really kicked off in the spring of 2021, from what I can remember. There was a big surge of energy. A lot of people were submitting ideas around that time, and the art community was coming out and putting on events that we hadn't had for so long. We were all so excited to see each other and do things together again. I eventually got around 30 people to help me with my project. And when I first submitted my idea, I just remember putting my best friend Azaria's name next to mine and thinking, yeah, she and I will do it together. And I never thought that like 30 or 40 people would end up putting some amount of paint on that mural.
Hey, this is Cynthia Ramu with the Pueblo Levee Mural Project. Thanks for listening to the 45 Degrees series. If you're listening to this and want to start the process of painting a mural, please reach out to me at Pueblo Levee 2022 at gmail.com, and I'll be glad to get back to you and give you any updates or just guide you, and we can get the process started. You can find more information on Facebook at Pueblo Levee Project Facebook page, and you can even message me there also. So I look forward to connecting with more artists in the community, and I look forward to giving you more updates as we get into the spring. There's going to be a lot more happening. You guys have a great day. See you soon.
So when did you join Outdoors Pursuits? I know I was reading up on your website. So was that before your surgery, or did you use it to get back into pursuing your passion of outdoors?
In a way, both. I moved here in the fall of 2015 and attended almost every Outdoor Pursuits weekend trip as a participant with them and applied in the spring. So I came back from Maryland right after my surgery. I didn't want to be away from Colorado for very long. I figured I might as well recover there. Got back to school, started spring semester, just business as usual. I was really tired. I remember I was sleeping probably 10 hours a night, and my short-term memory was crap because anesthesia has long-term effects. I was under for my surgery for about 8 or 9 hours, and they say it takes that many months to get the long-lasting effects out of your system. So it took between 8 and 9 months for my sleep to get back to usual, for my energy levels to get back to normal. So I did apply to Outdoor Pursuits in the spring of 2016, and I was hired, which was fantastic. And by the end of that semester, I got a promotion or a new position with them as the PR and marketing supervisor. So I was able to help facilitate outdoor trips and then also do design and social media work, which was nice because I was still recovering and couldn't necessarily lead big backpacking trips yet. Not yet.
So I know they use rock climbing gear to do the mural paintings because it is a precarious. Well, it's at like 45 degrees. It's above the Arkansas River. It's kind of a risky business situation. So I was talking with Cynthia Ramu about how they did it in the old days, which is a rope strictly for your paint bucket, and you just kind of got good. Just
she
don't
said
fall
you would
in.
Get good, don't fall in, lean into the wall. And Cynthia suggested like warrior's pose from yoga. So you have your back foot planted and then your front leg can be bent against the wall. That worked well for me with and without a harness. I did use my rock climbing equipment all the time. There's paint on all of my quick draws. There's paint on my rope. There's paint on my harness. We didn't need like chalk bags or anything though. So
it does help.
Yeah. So you put the harness on and then connect yourself to the rope. And it was a little bit of trial and error at first. You could, if you wanted to, you could get an ascender and move up and down the rope that way. I wanted less things to have to deal with in my hands. So I ended up tying knots with a loop as part of the knot in every 3 feet of the rope. And so on the way down the rope, it's anchored above on one of the steel posts above my mural, on the way down every 3 feet, I had a loop on a knot in my rope that I could clip into. And then if I needed to move down, I would just unclip, let the rope come through my hands a little bit, and then reclip. And so that quick draw that I'm clipping to the rope is clipped into the belay loop of my harness. And that's the most secure location for you to clip to on your harness. It's called the belay loop. And then I had all of the other loops on my harness where I could put like a paintbrush on a carabiner or paint buckets. What I found worked really well for me is this thing called a handy pail from Lowe's. It is a small red bucket, like the size of a Nalgene water bottle probably, and has a big rubber handle on it as well. So you can just slip your hand right into it like a nice mug of paint. And it had a magnet as part of it. So your paintbrush, the metal of your paintbrush could just stick right to the side.
Oh, that's nice.
Super nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. During my whole project, I only dropped one thing, and that was a tape measure on like my first day.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I got pretty good at it. I mean, I would have my phone out there with me all the time, and I didn't put that on a lanyard or anything. I just trusted in luck. I was very lucky. A friend of mine dropped his pocket knife and then like dove into the river to go after it.
Oh, God.
Another of my friends dropped her phone. Celeste, you should interview her. She's done some gorgeous murals. One of her first days, she dropped her phone and then went in and retrieved it like a badass.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Did it work after that?
I think so.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
I was just texting her last week, so. Yep. Persistence is very important.
Oh, yeah.
We learned
certainly.
that on the levee too. I mean, you're working like 8-10 hours a day in the sun, standing on an incline. By the end of the day, your calves are just screaming. Everyone found a way that worked for them. Like the way I set up my ropes isn't necessarily how everybody else would. Some of my friends liked it and started doing it that way as well, with the knotted loops throughout the rope. Specifically, it's like whether or not you want to be barefoot or wear sandals or wear paint shoes, like just shoes that you always get paint on. I found that I would fluctuate between shoes and just bare feet. I do have shoes that I wear when I paint, and those were comfy to a certain extent, but then maybe the next day I would do bare feet because it's so hard on your body. So mixing it up helped, definitely.
What season did you paint in?
What season did I paint in?
Yeah.
It was from April to May. I remember it was 8 days on the levee, but it was spread out across maybe 6 weeks. So probably April to May. Yeah, all of April and then 2 weeks of May. That I think was the best time to do it. That's when I plan to start my next mural as well, as in April. As long as I don't overload my schedule, which I tend to do sometimes. Yeah, that worked out really well for us. We had a couple of dust storms and a couple of rainy days, but no snow, which was awesome. It was hot. It was sunny. It was really enjoyable. I mean, I got to do what I loved, painting mountains that I loved in such a beautiful environment. We lucked out with weather, surrounded by my friends. We had a really good time.
That sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Shannon Palmer was explaining that she got heat stroke one time on there, but I think she was painting in the summer.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
and she has very pale skin as well. And so she has to bundle up in long sleeves and long pants and a hat. And I mean, that's great for sun protection, but it can really get you hot.
Yeah, I had a medication that meant that I had to cover up all
Yeah.
the time. Oh my God. Yeah, last summer was a mess because I was out there with my dog.
I took a medication like that too once.
Yeah, bundling up. I can't imagine, especially, whenever you're next to water, that causes extra reflection, which makes it even more intense to be in the sun.
Backs of my arms, my triceps were so burnt after day one because I just did not realize that was going to get burnt in that way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I remember I put sunscreen on the whole front of my body because you're facing a white or a tan concrete wall. I knew it would get reflected that way, but I didn't expect, or I didn't plan for, the water reflection to also be bouncing the sun onto me. Yeah, that was a bad sunburn.
Yeah, it sounds like brutal conditions, but everyone says they have the best time out there, despite those conditions.
Yeah, I mean, the conditions are hot and sunny, and you're in a harness all day, which isn't the most comfortable thing. It's so important to take good breaks and stay hydrated. I'm going to sound like a mom, but I hope that all of the painters out there are taking breaks and staying hydrated. If you want to keep working really hard and you don't want to take break, just lower yourself down into the water. I did that this past summer because I was helping my friend on her mural, Azaria Mendoza, on her mural Nourish. And I lowered myself down into the water like 2 or 3 times that day and just full body soak in long sleeves and long pants. And that really helped keep me cool.
Yeah, that actually sounds pretty refreshing.
Yes. Yeah. I've learned I learned so much from Wahatoya about like what conditions to expect, how to prepare myself and my body the best way for a big day in the sun on the levee like that. And also just how to plan out the process. You know, you start with primer and then you can grid from there if you want to. I have a friend, Tia Monson, for all of her murals on the levee, she just freehands it because she's a beast. She's incredible. I have to grid. Yeah. There are a couple different ways you can grid, and then like filling in the detail. It is different for every mural, but the process as far as like setting yourself up is pretty similar. Cynthia gave us so much good wisdom and advice on that.
Yeah, she sounds like a great mentor to have for this.
Mm-hmm. She's fantastic.
I wanted to ask you about your next mural. Like, what are you doing? What's the plan there? So
the plan for that one is to create my rendering of the Pueblo Reservoir. It's a place that I hike all the time with my dog, Mayday, who I love very much. And I want to immortalize, just like I did with Wahatoya, immortalizing the joy I felt in the moment of that original sunrise that I saw. I have this image of my mind of the Pueblo Reservoir and my dog running through the dust and the bluffs right on the edge of the water during sunset. And creating a piece that features sunset feels like a really good bookend for the sunrise of Wahatoya. And another part of it will be that this next mural of mine features species that are very specific to the Pueblo Reservoir area. Like there's this certain species of beetle that like only lives in, there's this certain species of lizard that only lives in the Pueblo Reservoir area, and they congregate, and it's just the females of that species of lizard. Yeah. So during my research, I found specific species of plants and animals that are native and iconic, and they all call the reservoir area their home, just like I do, and just like my dog does, and just like my Joy does.
It's, my family actually lives next to the reservoir.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. What I didn't know until one day I heard it was that there's a bunch of frogs out there, and they yell so loud at night. Oh, it's just the loudest thing. And I was like, this is supposed to be a desert. How are there frogs here? But our golden retriever actually got one in his mouth.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Frogs pee when they're scared.
Yeah. And so it got all over your pup.
Yeah, he hated it. He's never done it again. So, yeah.
I was lucky enough to grow up with a pool in my backyard. And so this was in Maryland, and we had a different kind of frog, like more tree frog species. And I remember that the like shrill, deafening frog song, especially at dusk and twilight. And now it's very nostalgic for me. And sometimes I play it like on my Google Home at night with white noise to fall asleep to. It's like, play the frog song.
And it's just screaming.
Yeah.
And you're like, soothing.
Quietly screaming.
It makes a lot of sense. It's, sounds of home.
It's just so nostalgic.
Well, that's interesting. Are they going to be, the murals, are they going to be close to each other?
No, this next one, I'm hoping to get on the historic section of the wall, especially because it features those species of plants and animals that are very native to the reservoir area. It's more representative of the flora and fauna of our area. So I'm applying with my mural application. I'm putting it in for the historic section of the wall, which is past the 4th Street Bridge, and Wahatoya is further north from there. So they won't be close to each other, actually.
Just thematically similar.
Yeah, thematically similar and visually similar as well. I plan to use at least 20 colors in this next mural. The first one used 16, and this next one would use 20, maybe 25. Bright, vibrant, not quite like neon, because I also have beautiful pastel colors like lavender and lilac and like sage green. Just a lot of high contrast as well. Part of the process for my mural is to sketch all of the line work on, then fill in the bright color. The last step is this thick, beautiful, like heavy black line work with dots and double lines, and it really helps everything just pop right off the wall.
Is it going to have a similar prism, motif?
So to answer your question, yes, it will have similar design features to Wahatoya with the array of color. Specifically, the sunset portion, the rays of the sun will be coming off of the actual sun, kind of like the World War II Japanese flag, the rising sun.
Cool. Interesting. I guess my final question is, what other art projects are you working on? How can we find you? Do you have art for sale, etc.?
Mm-hmm. So some of the other projects that I'm working on right now, I have another mural in progress with my friend Azaria Mendoza. It is called Nourish, and it features two hands doing a pinky swear. And that is up on the levee right now. We're still adding our finishing touches to it. So that's another piece that I've had my hand in. Other than that, I do a lot of just professional artwork, graphic design. I recently designed the logo for the Canary Initiative Band, which is my friends Steph and Janine's band here in town. And if you take a look at the logo, you'll see like the dot work and the line work and kind of the sunburst, like sun rays. I featured that in their logo as well. One of the big paintings I'm working on right now is of Table Rock Lake in Missouri. That one should be finished in the next week or so, and that's for my friends who live in Missouri. They used to live here in Beulah, or here in Colorado in a town called Beulah, and as their going away present, I did a big landscape piece for them featuring Beulah Valley, and now that they have moved to Missouri, they commissioned me for a sister piece, same size, but of where they live now.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, and that one features the lake and the little inlets and barrier islands and just regular islands that dot around the lake itself and some puffy clouds above it. It's going to be really good. I'm excited about that piece.
Nice.
Yeah. My Instagram is Jaybirds Designs, and I post pretty regularly on there, like 2 or 3 times a week. Updates on my projects, updates on the paintings that I'm working on. I love sharing like work in progress. I think it's very important to show people, especially with my piece, especially with my pieces, until I add in the line work. A lot of times it just looks like blobs of color. And then I put in the line work as the last step, and it looks very finished in a way that it didn't before. So I enjoy sharing the works in progress to show people that, yeah, it's not always going to look perfect at every step along the way, and that's perfectly okay. I enjoy that kind of content on my Instagram, so I want to be a part of that movement as well.
Kind of reminds me of when you do eyeshadow and then you add the eyeliner.
Mm-hmm.
Like you kind of look kind of mad, and then you're like,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing about your murals and the stories behind them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the 45 Degrees series brought to you by the Pueblo Star-Journal. If you want to hear more of this show, check it out right here on your podcast platform, and you can find our episodes with Shannon Palmer and Cynthia Ramu. Additionally, if you want to see our other episodes focusing on some of the big articles we've done in our paper, you can find those right here on Voices of Pueblo. Our most recent one was this really in-depth look at the Bridie Murphy story here in Pueblo, which is the story of hypnotism in the 1960s that really turned into this epic worldwide phenomenon. So go check out that podcast right here, as well as get connected with other Pueblo Star-Journal podcasts right here, wherever you're at. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great rest of your week.